The matchup between Gervonta "Tank" Davis and Lamont Roach was nothing short of explosive. What began as a routine pre-fight stare-down rapidly turned into an explosive encounter, complete with shouting, shoving, and security racing in to separate the boxers before things devolved into a full-fledged brawl. This wasn't just another matchup. This was a declaration of war, more personal than previous conflicts. Davis, known for his generally collected manner, lost his cool in an explosive moment that had the audience buzzing and wondering what happened to send Tank over the edge. The feud between these two boxers had been building for months. Trash-talking in interviews, social media insults, and tensions behind the scenes all contributed to this outcome. Tank had always been vociferous about the fact that Roach was not on his level, and that he did not belong in the same conversation as the greatest fighters. Roach, in turn, lashed back, accusing Tank of shunning the best competition by choosing easy fights over true difficulties. However, it wasn't just verbal sparring. The hostility has spilled over into real-world encounters. In fact, at a recent private event, the two came close to fighting in front of a number of fighters, which fanned the fire. As the battle day approached, the tension grew. Tank had frequently rejected Roach, labeling him a nobody and claiming he was not a threat. Meanwhile, Roach was attempting to get under Tank's skin, attacking Tank's reputation and even doubting his mindset. Roach's tactic seemed straightforward. If he could agitate Tank and cause him to lose his calm, he might unsettle the champion and throw him off his game. But was this all part of Roach's plan? Did he get into Tank's head, or was it just another instance of Tank being Tank, a fighter so focused and passionate that anything less than a perfect performance was out of the question? Let's look at what transpired and what it could indicate for the struggle ahead. At the center of it all was the significance of their words and what they represented. Tank had stated in previous interviews that he would not be in the sport for much longer and that he intended to retire shortly to focus on his family and other interests outside of fighting. For many, this prompted concerns about his hunger and motivation. Could a boxer still be considered the best if he has one foot out the door? Was Tank mentally checked out, or was this just part of his fighter's maturation, recognizing that the time to walk away might be approaching? In contrast, Lamont Roach took a very different approach to the problem. He accepted it as a challenge. He regarded Tank's possible ambivalence as a weakness. Perhaps Tank was not as concentrated as he once was, and he was losing his edge. Roach was determined to demonstrate that the best version of Tank might not be entering the ring that night. He frequently stated that he wanted to battle Tank at his best, not when he was distracted or losing enthusiasm in the sport. Despite Tank's earlier dismissals, Roach maintained a confident, if not cocky, demeanor. Roach had spent time in Tank's training camps, getting to know his rhythm, quickness, and thinking firsthand. He thought that familiarity would give him an advantage. However, Roach needed to exercise caution. Getting Tank fired up can backfire. If there was one thing Gervonta Davis excelled at, it was being angry. Many opponents have attempted to get under Tank's skin in the past, but when provoked, he typically fights with an even sharper edge. And so, when the two eventually met in that face-off, everything went from 0 to 100 in an instant. What should have been a regular stare-down rapidly escalated into a full-fledged showdown. Tank, famed for his steely, calculated glare, stood immobile, glaring down Roach without saying a word. Roach, on the other hand, smirked, obviously seeking to elicit a response from Tank, as if he was testing the champion's true resolve. That was the turning point. What followed was an outpouring of insults, threats, and hatred, which only grew from there. Tank surged forward, his eyes glowing with rage, stating unequivocally that he was not only here to win, but also to destroy. "I'm ending you," Tank warned Roach, a terrifying sentence that reverberated around the room. Roach did not flinch, however. Instead of backing down, he lashed back, assuring Tank he was not going to stop anything and that Tank was done. The tension in the room reached a boiling point, prompting security to intervene before things escalated. Even yet, Tank continued to rage at Roach, refusing to let the incident go. He continued reiterating that Roach was playing with fire and would pay the consequences once they entered the arena. Tank's focus was no longer only on the combat. It was personal. It wasn't only about defending his title or reputation, it was also about showing Roach that Tank Davis shouldn't be underestimated. Roach had pushed the wrong buttons, and now he must face the consequences. Tank was more than simply upset, he was motivated. That kind of rage, however, might be either his greatest strength or his greatest weakness. The manner in which Roach handled the incident added to its intrigue. While most warriors would have crumbled by Tank's harsh remarks, Roach seemed to relish in the pandemonium. He smiled, chuckled, and shook his head while Tank rambled. He didn't appear rattled at all. That may indicate a man who was extremely confident in his abilities, or a man attempting to conceal his own nervousness and anxiety. Regardless, it created an intriguing dynamic. Could Roach keep his cool in the midst of battle, or was he merely putting up a brave face to mask his rising anxiety? As the dust settled from the battle, one thing became clear: Tank and Roach's clash was about more than just boxing. It had escalated into a full-fledged battle of wills. Both men had made it personal, and each had something to prove. Roach wanted to demonstrate that Tank was no longer the same dangerous fighter he once was, whilst Tank was adamant that no one, not Roach, not anyone, could dethrone him as the lightweight division's champion. There's also the possibility that Tank will retire. Was he still hungry enough to take Roach seriously, or would the prospect of life beyond boxing divert his attention? Some say Tank's intention to leave the sport may give him added motivation to go out with a bang and cement his legacy before retiring for forever. Others wonder if Roach's charges and provocations will drive Tank to second-guess himself, questioning whether he is still the top dog. Tank's reputation for devastating knockout power brought an extra layer of intrigue to the issue. Tank has always been a fighter who goes for the knockout. Tank has a dangerous record in the ring, whether it's a swift one-punch knockout or a gradual dismantling of his opponent. His footwork, quickness, and strength make him a formidable opponent for anyone. If Roach is unable to handle that power early on, he could have a short night. But if Roach can survive the initial assault, can he make Tank work? Could he pull him into the latter rounds and attempt to break him down? But here's the thing: Tank's rage doesn't always go against him. In fact, when Tank is upset, he fights with increased intensity and focus. We have seen it before. In his bout with Rolando "Raleigh" Romero, Raleigh ran his mouth non-stop, attempting to get into Tank's head, but Tank remained calm until delivering the devastating knockout. Roach's attempt to get under Tank's skin may backfire, resulting in a savage beating. At the end of the day, the question is whether Lamont Roach can back up his remarks when the bell rings, or if he has just set himself up for the biggest defeat of his career. Tank's reputation as one of the deadliest men in boxing is well earned, notwithstanding Roach's exaggerated claims. Roach may believe he has Tank's number, but only time will tell if he can keep his promise. On March 1, 2025, everything will be on the line. It could be Tank's final bout before retirement. For Roach, this is his opportunity to make a statement and shock the world. Neither fighter is backing down, and each has something to show. Fans will remember this fight for years to come, and we'll all be waiting to see who wins.